Friends, in this lesson, I will show you how to draw a scale grid. This is necessary for accurately depicting the plan. For this work, I suggest using a ruler, but you can also do it by eye. Well, that is, if your eye is well trained, of course. Now I will show you how to draw a scale grid, so that later we can draw our entire plan to scale. I suggest you this time use a ruler because it will make our task much easier, no matter how steady our hand or how sharp our eye is. Using a ruler will still be faster, so why not do it? Let's agree on this. Today, we will be working with the measurement plan we made earlier, but now, using those measurements, we will draw it to scale. For this, I suggest you make a grid, and then everything will go very quickly. Let's decide that our grid will have lines every 2 centimeters, meaning that every 2 centimeters we draw will represent 1 meter of our plan, and to draw these lines at equal intervals. I suggest you make marks like this somewhere along the edge of your sheet, placing them every 2 centimeters. Just little notches like these. Every 2 centimeters. Of course, if someone really doesn't want to use a ruler for this particular task, you can do it by eye. If your ruler, like mine, is a bit shorter than you need, you just move it like this. And also mark every 2 centimeters on your sheet, both horizontally and vertically, making sure to carefully align everything. You can also, if you wish, make the same evenly spaced marks every 2 centimeters on this side of the sheet as well, and then your ruler will rest securely on 2 points, making your grid even more precise and accurate. But personally, I'll still trust my eye and use the straight edge of the sheet as a reliable guide, keeping the ruler carefully parallel to the edge of the sheet at all times. This method helps ensure that your lines remain straight and your measurements are consistent throughout the process. So I'll keep an eye on making sure my ruler stays parallel to the edge of the sheet, and I'll draw the line through the marked point. Of course, the grid is just an auxiliary part of our drawing, so don't press too hard with the pencil. I need to make sure that my ruler is positioned parallel to the edge of the sheet, whether it's the top or bottom edge. In the same way, we'll draw vertical lines from top to bottom, also using our guide points marked every 2 centimeters, and we'll try to keep the lines parallel to the edge of the sheet. Parallel means at an equal distance throughout. We have now created a grid, and we've decided that each cell represents 1 square meter. So here it's 1 meter horizontally, 1 meter, 1 meter, 1 meter, and so on, and vertically as well. We can even write 1 meter. And here it will also be 1 meter. Just so you keep that in mind, and please remember this as we move forward. Now, my dears, here's where it gets really, truly, and genuinely interesting. We take our detailed measurement plan and we can go right from the very corner of the room or the apartment and begin moving along the edge. But look, what can we do to figure out where exactly, precisely, and specifically to place this important corner? We need to carefully add up our chain measurements and get the exact dimensions of our room or apartment, both horizontally and vertically, making sure we don't miss any detail. That way, we'll have a clear understanding of how much space our plan will take up on the sheet of paper. If I know that my apartment horizontally is 7 meters and vertically a bit more, 7.2, almost 7 1/4, then I'll know that I take 7 cells here. I just multiply 7 by 2, because in 1 meter I have 2 centimeters on this particular scale. So 7 times 2 is 14, and I can easily find these 14 centimeters right here on the sheet. That means I'll start from here, from this exact point, making sure everything is lined up perfectly before proceeding. And the 14 will end right here at this point. Now I need to take the vertical measurement, which is 7.2 meters. I add up the whole chain and get 7.2, meaning 7 meters and 20 centimeters. I remember that each cell is a meter, so I can just count straight from this corner. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And friends, since my vertical measurement is a bit longer, I realize that it will end right at the very edge, which doesn't really suit me. So I just move up one cell higher and start from this corner instead. You can find the location of this corner yourself like this, so that later you can lay out all the walls according to these measurements. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Right here is 7 meters, and then I have 7 meters, 20, 7 meters, and 20 centimeters. And what do you think? How will I find those 20 centimeters here if each cell is a meter? Well, it's very simple. If this distance represents a meter, then half of it will be 50 centimeters. If we divide 50 centimeters in half, we get 25. And 20 will be a little less. So right here is where my wall will end. And now I can already take this wall, carefully draw it with a pencil, making it more clearly visible for better visibility. You see, I've drawn this wall, right? But you understand that for now, I'm actually drawing the inner part of our room, the corner inside the apartment. I'm drawing the inside, not the outside, but inside the apartment from here, because we don't know exactly how thick our walls are yet. We'll draw them later. For now, we're working within the interior space. So we've clearly defined this interior space. And we can also demonstrate part of our space horizontally. Again, we add up all our segments. Here when I added it up, I got 7,200. So my room is actually square in shape. So that means if I have a length of 7 meters and 20 centimeters, I need to mark off 1 meter, then 2 meters, 3 meters, 4 meters, 5 meters, 6 meters, and finally 7 meters. I do this step by step, making sure each meter is measured accurately along the wall. 7 meters, and then another 20 centimeters. Just like we discussed here with you. If this is a meter, half of that is 50 centimeters, and half of 50 centimeters is 25. And so we take just a little bit less. I draw another line, this time more boldly. Right now I'm drawing this line. If you have a different outline, or as professionals say, the contour of your space, then you proceed differently. Now I'll draw another wall. I'll end up with a square. I've drawn it to scale. The interior space of my apartment without any partitions yet, just the exterior walls. Well, let's go ahead and also show the thickness of the walls so it's clear that we're inside, and we'll draw the exterior walls outward. Let's take the exterior wall as 25 centimeters. It's often the case that an exterior wall can be 25 centimeters thick, so let's use that. Of course, it all depends on what it's made of. These could be foam blocks, they could be brick or other types of building structures, and the wall thickness will depend on that. For us, that's not important right now. It won't affect our interior in any way. So let's take 25 centimeters and proceed with that assumption. If we have 1 meter here, half of that is 50 centimeters. And if we take half of 50 centimeters, that will be exactly 25 centimeters. And now, around our drawn outline, we'll draw the wall thickness. You can do this approximately because in general, it won't affect the walls or the interior in any way. Now we'll make some clarifications. So look, this is how we're going to proceed. Now we need to add the details. That's why we made sure to align the window with the corner. We know that in my case, the window is located at a distance 60 centimeters. We remember that, like true professionals, we use millimeters for measurements, but right now it's probably easier for us to use centimeters. So, for example, we'll talk in centimeters. 600 millimeters is 60 centimeters. And here's how we reason. If we have 1 square here, and that distance is 1.5 meters, that's 50 centimeters. But we need 60 centimeters, so we take a little more than half. Here we have 50, we add a bit more, and we get 60 centimeters, and that's where the window will be. Well, in my case. In your case, it might be a completely different story. I'm just showing you how to think about it. Next, look, my window is 2 meters 30 centimeters. How do we approach this? I can already take a ruler, and I know that 2 centimeters is 1 meter, another 2 centimeters is another meter, and we have 230. So we just add a little more, those 30 centimeters by eye, because we're not going to calculate every millimeter right now. And here, look, I have 60 centimeters from the window to the corner. And remember how we reason. 60 centimeters is approximately by eye, and we'll mark it here. Again, 60 centimeters is just a part. So if here, look, here is 1 meter, this is. So half of 1 meter is 0.5 meters, which means that it is exactly half of a meter. And as you might expect, half of 50 will be 25. So my friends, we have found the angle, this specific angle right here. And from this angle, the wall will go. In my case, the wall will go here. In your case, it might go in a different direction depending on your own measurements and setup. Now let's take a closer look at our measurements. In my particular case, the measurement is 1,068 centimeters, which is the distance I have measured. Remember, your measurement might be different, so always double-check your own numbers to make sure everything is correct before proceeding. I draw the wall like this, vertically, and I know that if I need 1 meter 68, I take 1 meter, and 68 centimeters is a little more than half a meter, right? So I take a bit more than half a meter, and I get the next angle right here. So now I will move and draw this wall. From this particular corner, I managed to get this angle right here. If anyone at any point suddenly gets nervous in this situation, my friends, please, you can just do it by eye. After all, we drew the measurement plan by eye just fine, didn't we? But if someone wants to be more precise, they can follow the method I'm showing. And this isn't even the hardest way. It's kind of a compromise, because we're partly guided by the grid and partly just estimating by eye. Our points are like this. Here we also have a wall, you see, on the outside, since I have a loggia. I take the same kind of wall, 250 centimeters. Here it is. Here I don't have a wall, so there won't be one here. I'll erase this part so I don't get confused. Now, from this corner, we'll measure out 60 centimeters, but that's just in my case. You might have different measurements. Again, we're using the grid as a reference. Our 60 centimeters is just over half of 1 square, and we can see that it's going to be right about here. A balcony door is usually 70 centimeters wide. What does 70 centimeters look like? Again, we use the grid for reference. 1 square is a meter, half a square is 50 centimeters, and a bit more than half is about 70. So we measure it out like this. This is where the balcony door will be. We can even mark it like this and show how it opens. Just like that, we draw it open. Since this is a doorway, we can erase the wall here and draw the door opening. Next, we move on to the window. But the window is usually combined with the door in a single block. So now we move to this corner, here it is, and measure out 1 meter. You see, it says 1 meter here. So from this corner, it's 1 meter to the window. We remember that 1 meter is 2 centimeters on our scale. Since everything has shifted a bit here, we just take a ruler and mark off 2 centimeters. 1, 2, well, there are different ways to do it. For example, like this, 2 centimeters. There you go. So this is the spot where our window will be located, and we can immediately remember how we previously marked the locations for our windows. Let's go ahead and mark this window as well. We can actually draw it right now, making sure to follow the guidelines we discussed earlier.